Afternoon, everyone. So today I'm going to be doing like an introduction into tech. So for those of us that have dying desires of getting, but due to the fees the for tech and also the requirement, it's often said that you need a system to start and all of that. So today I'm going to be guiding you with your phone, and also for those that would love to use their system for this class is also okay. So what matters is the programming language you get to learn. So getting into tech, there are a lot of fields, there are a lot of areas you can focus in: web development, app development, ethical hacking, cyber security, data management, data analysis, and all of them. There are a lot of fields you can just get into. But now as a web developer, I'll be focusing deeply on web development and also app development. Maybe as time goes on, we can get into cyber security now and learning a little of hacking and stuff. So today I will be telling us what programming language means. Now, what is a programming language? A programming language is a language that is easily understood by the computer, a language the computer understands better, a language the computer understands more. So there is a language the computer prefer rather than English. So when you approach the computer with that language, the computer tend to obey or take instruction from you in order to do things, right? So you tend to command the computer. You're not in control. It gives you that boss access, right? So talking about programming language, we have said what a programming language is. We can call it programming language or coding language. Why the people that write this code or the people that write this programming language or coding language are called the programmers, right? We have different types of programming language which you can write, to give the computer instruction in various fields. Now, this programming language I'm mentioning, they are programming language because they are used in various fields. Like we have Python, which is used for hacking, which is used for back-end JavaScript. It's one of the famous programming languages as well. We have Java, we have C++, used for game development. We have Ruby, we have a lot of them, right? But as a web developer going into website development specifically, we are going to be looking in two areas. One, which is the front-end developers, which are responsible for the look of the website, the design of the website, and everything you can see on the website, while the back-end developers actually deals with the functionality of the website, the interactiveness, and some other things you can't really see but are really going on in the back interface of the website. Now, someone would love to ask me, what are the programming languages required in order to be a front-end developer or a back-end developer? In order to be a front-end website developer, you need to learn HTML, you need to learn CSS, you also need to learn JavaScript. Why? In order to be a back-end website developer, you need to learn PHP, which is only restricted to website development, or you can also learn Python, which is not only restricted to website development. That is why many developers prefer using Python as the back-end code for website development, because they get to learn a little and use Python for various activities, right? That's also interesting. So don't get me wrong, Python has its own advantage, and PHP also has its own advantage. There are some things you get while using Python, you don't get them while using PHP. There are some things you get while using PHP and you don't get them while using Python. That's why for me, I actually learned the two. So now we are going to be going into the editor we are going to be using for this class. So I have an editor for those using their phone that want to learn. So this is the one for this class. You just have to follow up. Every day I'll be dropping videos and classes and all. So now the editor we are going to be using is over here. So we are going to be using this editor for this class. It's called the SPCK editor. You can find it on your Play Store. For those using iPhone, I'm sorry you can't really get access to this editor. So that's why the class is specifically for Android users. Okay, if you are using an iPhone, basically you might have access to a PC, something of that. Okay, so now this is how this application is. So I'll be doing like a brief introduction. This is what we call a navigation bar. I often click on it to get some of the features as well. So you can see that this is for the file. So this is where we click to create like folder. You can also click here to create folder, and this to create file. This you can also check all these features. This is like if you log in on the app, this is where you see your details. Then also this send, this place that looks like a send icon is where you can also see some of your folder that you have created on this app. You can see this set, and you can see that this is where you see the file name, the folder name, the file name. You can see that this is saved as index.html, main.js, that is for JavaScript, and style.css. So I'll be walking you through the process of how we really create a folder and a file. So this video is going to be a little bit long. So I'll be posting this video on my YouTube, the full video. So if you'll be watching this video from TikTok, please do well to go to my YouTube page. I'll be dropping the link in the comment section. So do well to go to my YouTube for the full video. Okay, so the full video will always be dropping on my YouTube channel. So you can see that after clicking on this, I went here. So after clicking on this place, we have a lot again. We have project, we have settings, we have my labs, we have discovery, we have change log. Then these are the recent folder and my recent work, all of them and all. So you can see that this is really amazing. So let me just show you one of my achievements. So for those of you that don't really know how a website looks, so you can really get an idea of how a website really looks. It looks something like this. Yes, it actually looks. So let's see something else. Let's see this. So this is just like what a website looks like. So though you can see some of these images are not viewing very properly because my data is actually turned off. So I won't be showing that now. I'll be going into creating of the folder and how we can actually code with this thing. So you get to learn very quickly in the particular aspect. So now creating a folder, you click on these three dots here. So let me use my brush. You click on these three dots, you get this. Then now you click on this create project, right? If you click on the create project, you get this. Now you click on this part, HTML web page. So this is where you put your folder name. So you can input anything as your folder name, but for me I'll be inputting webma. Okay, I'll be inputting web servant here. Right, so created. So now our folder is created, right? So now you can see that inside the folder, what SPCK editor does is that it automatically creates the HTML file for you, the CSS file and the JavaScript file. Most editor won't do that for you. So now, what is the HTML, what is the CSS, and what is the JavaScript? So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's actually the markup language for web designing. We call it web designing or front-end developers. So they are also web designers because they only design, right? They only design how the looks of the website, how the website looks. Now, what is the function of HTML in terms of front-end development or in terms of web designing? Now, the function of HTML is to create the raw elements, is to create the building. Now, let's take a building for example. So I'll explain the functions of this different programming language in front end for you to understand. So now we have a building. HTML is the foundation. Without the foundation, the building cannot stand. HTML is also the building blocks. Yes, the building blocks, the roof and everything. But now, without the painting and every other thing, the building won't look very nice. That is where CSS comes in. CSS comes in to style the entire building, to give it a very beautiful look. So CSS is used for styling, while JavaScript is actually used for the interactiveness. JavaScript can also be used for back end, take note, but JavaScript in front end is used for the interactiveness, for the function in some facilities. Okay, so having said that, let's move on. Now, having here, yeah, you can see some code here, but you don't really understand the code, so I'll be explaining the code to you. So first of all, I'll be giving you a tips or a guide to HTML. Most of the programming language, what you often see when coding, what you often see. So you often see things like this. You often see things like this in HTML specifically. So, sorry, there's a sign inside here. So something like this. So these are called tags. So the one at the line 1 is called the opening tag. So this is the opening tag, while this is the closing tag. Now in the middle you get the content. Now you inside the tag you get like the function. What really happens? What is really like the function of the tag? There's a function that is given to every tag, so they know what to act on. You can't just create an empty tag. So you have to add something like a function. Like we have a function of the p. The p tells the computer that you want to write a paragraph, right? So the p there represents a paragraph, and you should also note that words can be represented in coding language with the first letter, which is like this, which is like the example I just gave, the p. The paragraph representing just using p to represent the paragraph, just using h to represent heading, just using a to represent anchor text, just using img because sometimes you see the short form or the short word for something, just using img to represent image, right? A lot of that stuff. Now, so all together, the tag, the content and everything. Now altogether, having the p tag, the content, and the ending tag, the opening tag, the closing tag, the content in between, they all call them HTML elements. Now without some of this tag, it's not regarded as a HTML element. So if it's not complete, definitely it's not a HTML element. And note that not all HTML element has an ending tag. So you can definitely see an element that has a function in it but has no ending tag. So now I'm going to be moving forward to the HTML setup, the basic setup you need to know as a developer. You don't just go into the HTML and start coding unlike what we do in CSS and JavaScript, because HTML is the boss. You have to give some commands. And now where's the first command? Now this is the tag I'm going to be creating, but it doesn't have an ending tag. And the function you are writing inside of it, you are giving it this command. You are saying doc type. So all of them should be in caps. Sorry. So we are saying doc type. The doc there means document, and the type, you understand, document type. So what you are saying here is that you should create a document type, and the document type should be HTML. Now we close it. Now you will notice that this doesn't have an ending tag. If you close the this thing over here and it does not produce an ending tag, because that is what SPCK editor is meant to do, produce an ending tag. If it does not, it means that it doesn't have an ending tag. So we go down here. Now we assume that the HTML document has been created. So now we need a tag, a HTML tag, to represent that document that has been created. So you can see that the tag has been created, a HTML tag has been created, and right inside the middle, that's where the content goes, right? According to the structure I told you before, the skeletal structure I told you before. Now, what goes inside the HTML tag is not just the content, but all the HTML code. Now, anything you are doing outside this HTML tag is often not regarded as a HTML code. So you should be classic in your work. Make it look professional. So even when a professional sees your programming work, it is able to identify that, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. So there are two bodies inside this HTML tag. But before that, I would love to run this code using the run button to explain something to you. So now, running this code, you see that we have a white space here, and we also have this black space. Now we have the two bodies that are meant to be in the HTML tag. One is the head tag and two is the body tag. Now the body tag represents everything that can be seen on the website, everything that can be seen on this white space over here, everything that can be seen over there. While the head tag are to carry the HTML element that can't be seen on the website. They might be seen here, they can be seen here, but can't be seen on the white space. Right? So we are going to be creating a head tag. So a head. So we have created one, and we are going to be giving an example of what you can see. Now the example is the title. So we can't see the title, so let's change the title to web servant. Right? So now we run. Now you see that over here it was showing localhost, but now it has changed to web servant. So you have given this website a title, a meaning. Now we can also create the body tag. Now I've created the body tag. Now over inside the body tag, it carries everything that can be seen on the website. Example, the link, the text, the images, and all that makes up a website, right? You know, if you have visited the website just like the one I showed you, you see text, you see images. But what makes it so classic that way is because of the styling and the functionality that makes it more interactive and all. So I'm going to be talking about I've talked about the HTML element that, okay, something like this now. The title here is called a HTML element. The title here is called the HTML element. Right? The title and the content inside of it, everything is called the HTML element. The head is also called the HTML element, right? Because it has the content, and the content is the title. It's not just empty. Right? So now going into the body, we are going to be talking about the HTML heading and all. We have talked about the paragraph. So let's create one paragraph. So paragraph is just like a text, not the font. Okay, my name is web servant. Okay, let me like a paragraph, a text. It just like a general text. So I'm going to click on this three dot and change it from the desktop mode to a phone mode so you can see it boldly, right? So now we want to talk about the heading. Now I told you before that H represent the heading, right? But now in programming language, you often don't want to give a a um a command that will end up confusing the computer. Now for those of, because we are just starting, we are going to be using the classification by sizes to describe this. Now HTML has a heading, but it has different sizes. So this H1, so it has to introduce a number in order to identify each heading and their sizes. So now they are classified their size by sizes, but when you get to learn CSS more, you won't depend on this HTML sizes. You can even use the H1, which is the biggest, and turn it into the smallest, right? You get what I'm trying to say. So we have the H1. So I'm going to show you what I mean. H1. So there's a class, so I will just say heading 1. So I'll go to H2. I will say heading 2. So I'll go over to H3. I'll say heading 3. I'll go over to H4. And I'll say heading 4. I'll go over to H5. And I'll say heading 5. And lastly, I'll go over to H6. Let me try again. X6. Now it says heading 6. So now we'll see what we mean by sizes. Now you see how this look. You see how the sizes look. So this is a classification by sizes, and I'm already exhausted 20 minutes, so I would end this video. So this is the first part of the class. So I'll be making a second video, and I'll be talking about HTML attributes and some other facilities, HTML text formation. So follow me in this class, and we are going to be achieving the goal of being a pro in website development. Love you guys. See you in the next video. Thank you.